Describe who was your ugliest Korean and who was the best. I mean, best and worst Korean in your experience in your life.
I mean, thinking about this kind of question is Hello everyone.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's the second time. So today, we want to share about two parts. One part is about Korea, and one part is about the English education in Korea.
Okay, and I hope I can provide some good insight from the perspective of a foreigner about these issues today.
Sure. So the first question is about the Korea. Would you describe who was your ugliest Korean and who was the best? I mean, best and worst Korean in your experience in your life.
I mean, thinking about this kind of question is very difficult for me, actually. In Canada for more than 20 years and traveling to, I don't know, more than 15 countries or how many. I've met many good and bad people wherever I've been in the world, and the same can be held true for Korea. So I mean, if you're asking me who is the ugliest or who is the worst Korean person I've met in 16 years that I've been in Korea, it's very tough for me to answer that. But I mean, if you want to start there, the first thing that comes to my mind answering something like that, I guess, I've worked in many different places over the years in Korea that I mentioned to you in the previous interview. I've worked in hagwons and schools, companies, kindergartens, and some of the employers or bosses that I've worked with, we didn't always see eye to eye. We didn't always agree with each other, and I think a lot of times their style didn't fit with me. A lot of it had to do with a difference in culture, a difference in personality, but I also feel like I learned a lot. Looking back, I learned a lot coming out of that experience, how to do things differently in the next job that I went to. So I don't want to look at, what I'm trying to say is I don't want to look at a person as the worst person I've ever met in my life, even if it was a bad memory or something. I'd rather see it as someone who taught me something valuable that I can take with me in the future and do things differently, even though it might have been very difficult at that time.
That is a good answer, but the reason why I asked you the ugliest Korean is because we are so sensitive about being not ugly Korean to the foreigner. Because nowadays on the news, there is an employer who delay the wage, the salary overdue. So we are so sensitive about not being an ugly Korean.
Okay, if you're talking about relating to those kinds of issues, of course I've heard many stories about foreigners who've had their salaries paid late and other issues with their job. The case may be their vacation was not given, or other issues in the contract that were not fulfilled, and things like that make me, I guess, kind of angry, as they would if it happened in Canada to a foreigner. I would feel the same anger as well. I have been very lucky and fortunate that with any job I've had in 16 years, I've always been paid on time and everything's been followed correctly in the contract. So in that regard, there has been no one ugly in that aspect. So I've been very lucky.
Yeah, that is because you are working in Hagwon and a good academy, but usually the employer who overdue the salary is someone who work in the factory. In that case, maybe you are lucky or you are a good person to work with something. You want to set up ugly Korean because they all the experience something that would be a tough time to you, but now you want to make it as your useful resources for your life.
Sure, absolutely. And even people that I worked with in Canada or people that I've met while traveling in other countries. So at the time, I could have been upset or stressed out, but looking back, I don't want to think of it as some terrible experience. There's no point to think of it like that. I'd
That is a
rather.
good point as being an expat in another country.
Yeah, of course, and I think that's the only way, the best way you should handle things like that, because it's not always easy to live and work in another country.
Wow, it's a good realization because I thought there would be, because there's so many bad guys, like a bad Canadian, bad Korean, something like that. But you want to make all the experience as yourself now, good resources to use.
Sure, that's right.
Wow, good answer. It's in Korean we say stupid question and wisdom answer.
I see.